Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Post Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Walker, and today Elliot Heath and Daniel Harrington join me today to discuss the latest news around the footballing world. How's it going?
Not too bad.
Yeah, good mate, all good.
That's good. Sounds good. We've got a few topics to cover today, including all the transfer deadline day wrap up, and we'll look to the international fixtures coming up as well, and revise our Premier League predictions after a few interesting results over the last few weeks. But the first topic of today is that we'll start with sort of a fun question each week, and that question is today. If we had to go back in time to one football game to watch live, in person, what game would it be and why? We'll go to Elliot first.
Well, there's not a whole heap when you're a West Ham supporter, but I'd probably go all the way back to our last FA Cup win in 1980. Our last trophy beat Arsenal at the time, which was a big deal. So I'd probably go to that 1980 FA Cup win, 1-0.
Not bad. That would have been at the old Wembley too.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah,
support.
okay. So we're allowing any time frame because
Mhm.
I'd probably say 1999 Champions League final or 2013 against Swansea at home because it was Ferguson's send-off.
Fair enough. Great games. I'd probably have to go with the classic Istanbul 2005. Obviously, incredible game. That one. Also, Liverpool-Barcelona at Anfield 4-0. That's a good shout as well, but probably have to pick 2005. That's probably, Liverpool's greatest games. So, yeah, have to go with that one. We'll get started with a bit of some transfer deadline day stuff. A few big deals going through, like Thomas Partey, United signing Alex Telles, and we'll look to see how these players will improve the squads in the Premier League as well. What did you guys make of transfer deadline day? Premier League clubs obviously spending much more than the likes of La Liga and League One as well. Hello?
Hello? Yeah, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's definitely interesting to look at when you I read something the other day that Real Madrid for the first time in I think it was 40 years didn't sign a single player over the summer transfer window. And obviously Barcelona even struggled to sign Memphis Depay for a cut price. I think Lyon were willing to sell for 25 million, but they still couldn't get the deal done. So it's definitely interesting. It's an interesting dynamic over in the UK, especially when you're looking at Arsenal having to let go of Gunnosaurus just to fund the Thomas Partey transfer.
Can't believe they made him redundant. That's they could have got rid of Mesut Ozil instead. I mean,
Well, Ozil tweeted last night saying he's going to reimburse the club for Gunnosaurus's wage so that he can keep him. They can keep him.
Yeah, I saw a tweet the other day saying that Sevilla had signed Gunnosaurus.
To be fair, what Gunnosaurus earns in a year would be probably a quarter of what Ozil earns in a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
so,
even.
But I think overall, some pretty good business, I'd say, done in the Premier League. Making the most of their opportunities. They are arguably, they are the richest league in the world, and they got some of the most richest clubs in the world. So it makes sense. I mean, it's just interesting how it worked out. Where some clubs like United were not willing to spend that extra cash on, big players, but then we're willing to spend 30 million on an 18-year-old who no one knows. So it's a little bit disappointing in that respect, but given the circumstances, I still think it was a pretty eventful deadline day for sure.
No, yeah, definitely. We'll cross back to you, Daniel, quickly with talk a bit about Alex Telles. Good signing. Improves that left back position there. What do you make of strengthening in that position?
It's something that I said that we needed to strengthen in before the season started, or I guess right after the Europa League semi-final. Luke Shaw is a liability to say the least. He's and he doesn't like to attack. I don't know if you watch our games, but he's a very shy attacker, and he doesn't like taking people on. Whereas Alex Telles is very good at getting that ball forward down the wing. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. He's also a set piece specialist, which, I mean, we already have a few of those, so it's just nice to have another option. But it's nice to think that we'd actually sign a player in a position that we actually needed help in. It's unfortunate that we didn't sign a center back, but definitely at the left back spot. I'm not saying that he's up there in the best fullbacks in the world, but it's definitely an improvement on what we've got, and I think he will prove to be one of the better left backs in the Premier League.
Nice, very good. Elliot, we'll cross live to the London Stadium from the Premier League studio back here. Elliot, what have you got on West Ham? Obviously getting rid of Fernandez and Wilshere.
Felipe Anderson.
Anderson, sorry.
You combined his names there with Fernandez, Felipe. Yeah, interesting, very interesting. Leaves the squad pretty small and not a heap of depth there, but I mean, there's players they haven't provided a lot in the past couple of years. I would have liked to bring in a couple of players, considering we sold Dean Garner and we were told that all that money was going to be reinvested into the squad, and we've spent one instalment payment on a right back from Slavia Prague that we spent 6 million on, but the upfront payment was 2 million, so we spent 2 million all summer. And we sold him for upwards of 20 million, Dean Garner. So, I mean, there's still 9 days or something we can sign Championship players, and apparently we've got a few targets from there. But I mean, yet again, it's just the board telling lies.
That's unfortunate. Maybe look for someone like Ollie Watkins, who did a number over Liverpool on the weekend. But there's potential for Premier League clubs to go out into the Championship and maybe shore up their teams there. Hopefully Liverpool maybe will look for a fourth choice centre back. But I think our business is pretty much done this window. Yep, Daniel.
I was just saying, I do have a question for you, Elliot. Does West Ham have a director of football?
I'm not sure at this current time. I think we brought in one for the first time with Pellegrini, and that was Mario Silos. But obviously he left with Pellegrini, and I'm unaware of any appointments once Moyes came in.
Well, it's still better than what we've got.
Well, the only player we've actually signed is Soufal from Slavia Prague, who was recommended to us from chief head scout Thomas Souček, our centre midfielder.
Yes. Well, if he turns out anything like Souček, it's not going to be a bad buy.
And to be fair, he was very impressive on the weekend, so it looks like it's going to be a very astute buy for 6 million. But the fact that we're relying on Thomas Souček, our centre midfielder, to recommend us our only signing for the window is worrying.
Fair enough.
I will just say, though, with deadline day, I think Thomas Partey would be a good signing for Arsenal. I'm pretty impressed with that signing for them. I think earlier on when we were talking about transfers over our last few podcasts a couple of weeks ago, I've said that they needed more quality in those spine positions. So they needed a quality centre-back. They brought in Gabriel, a quality DM to sit in front of that back four. Now Partey's there. They're probably just lacking that one creative midfielder now that they were linked with our. Maybe they have to wait till next season to get someone like that in. But again, they're starting to build a quality side.
Yeah, it's a good signing for them. Exactly, they weren't able to bring in OR, so I'm not sure if Partey was top of that list and what they wanted to get. But it's definitely something they've needed for a very long time. Arsenal, that defensive.
Yeah, they were linked with Partey and OR the whole window. Those were the two players they wanted. So I think to at least get Partey is a good signing.
Yeah, no, it's that spine in the Arsenal team that people have been complaining about for years. I mean, obviously, Granit Xhaka is not going to cut it. We know how he is a bit. He's been performing well recently, but still has a big mistake in him or something where he snaps and gets sent off. Where Partey will fix that for you.
He's still a quality player, but the fact is that Partey is another level above him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the creativity in midfield, and maybe they need another signing like Aouar to come in, which is true. But now with Partey, they'll have that defensive sort of player in midfield, and will allow the likes of Ceballos in front of them to have a bit of freedom as well.
And even possibly Ozil, who knows what's going on with him? But if he can get back playing football, you never know.
Yeah, you never know. I thought he was still on holidays like only a week and a bit ago in Istanbul, but who knows? Who knows there? But yeah, good signing for Arsenal. It was a fee around, what was it, £45 million. So he still has a lot to live up to and prove himself in the Premier League. So Well, yeah, we'll see how that one goes. But good signing, positive signs for Arsenal. Definitely increases their top four chances. And yeah, they're just going through some other big transfers on deadline day. Theo Walcott signed for Southampton. That's not a bad addition for them. Here, Edison Cavani, I guess we'll move on to next. Another one of the big ones. Yeah, he's getting on in age, but still could provide United with something up top, Daniel.
Well, I mean, last time we signed a striker from PSG, it didn't turn out too terribly. So, I'm quietly confident, I guess you would say, with what we should expect from him. I know I would expect him to play against Newcastle in our next game because Martial's been sent off, unless he can't play, but I would assume he can. I think he'll be good. I think people are slightly underrating him and taking the piss out of us for signing him, but I do still think like that man's a goal scorer. Like he's gonna get us goals. Whether those goals are gonna matter or not remains to be seen. But I do still think he's gonna be a tidy pickup, and I think he's a 1-year deal with an option for a second year. I don't know if we'll take that second year option because I think the way that we were trying to move the club before this summer happened was definitely in a direction away from players like Edison Cavani. But at this point, if Solskjaer is still the manager by the end of the season, like I don't even know which way this is going. So still a good pickup, I would think, and he's gonna obviously teach players like Greenwood a lot, considering his goal scoring record and Champions League pedigree and all that. So I'm excited about it, but also at the same time, I don't really know where this leaves us.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting signing, but I think you're right, Daniel. I think it'll turn out to be a decent signing because what he is, he's a player that'll bring you goals. Wherever he goes, he scores goals. The fact is, he's proven it in a lot of places that he's a goal scorer and he will score goals. I think the only question mark really with this signing is how fit he's going to stay this year.
Yeah.
But I think if he's fit and playing, he's going to get you goals. He's still a good player.
Yeah, that's true. It's just right now reasons to be optimistic are there.
Yeah, I understand, but he also potentially frees up Martial to play on the wing.
Yep, that's also true. And like I said, he'll teach Greenwood a lot, so maybe Greenwood won't play as much this season. The bench
Greenwood, he probably hasn't been as good as he finished last year, and if he's unable to recapture that form this season, obviously being still so young, then it gives that opportunity that if Cavani's playing well and fit, he can go up top and Rashford and Martial on the wings, which is still a pretty good front three.
Yeah, and the other thing is Greenwood was arguably our best player on the pitch against Tottenham, which says something. But if he does something similar to what he was doing last season, and I hope he does progress off the bench, that's a great option to have, Greenwood.
Definitely.
Which is something that this Cavani signing obviously frees up.
You were saying earlier, Daniel, United was sort of willing to pay, what was it, around 80 million for Sancho or 100 million, but not what Dortmund was sort of asking for, upwards of 120 million. And you've gone out and spent money on Diallo and is it Pellistri as well, which would add up to over 30 million. And then so you're sort of saying, why didn't United go out and just use that cash on the likes of Sancho or even Harry Kane, which you wouldn't need to bring Cavani in then either, who's a player that's aging as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult one. I mean, I'd love to sit here and say that United have a plan for next season in regards to Sancho, but I think we all know that's not true. I think we're probably going to end up not getting Sancho and he's going to go somewhere else. I don't know if he'll go to Liverpool by any means, but he could end up in Spain or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. And then we'd all be sitting here going, well, what did we expect when we have Ed Woodward pulling all the strings and no director of football?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, we'll move on to one of the last big transfers on deadline day. That was Ben Godfrey to Everton to add a final player to what was a great transfer window for Everton. He'll probably shore up the back a bit for Everton there. Decent signing again, adding to that squad. And Carlo Ancelotti's had a masterstroke. And I guess this will sort of segue into our next segment, talking about I guess, what club we think had the best transfer window. So, do you guys have anything to say for Everton and the way Ancelotti's spent this summer?
Impressively, Ben Godfrey's a young player. Centre back's a position, if anywhere you look at their side, centre back's probably the place you'd go. They're the weakest. They've brought him in for a young player that's got the potential he has. 20 million is, in this market's pretty decent, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think for Everton's sake, they've had an absolutely great transfer window. Maybe before the season started, there were question marks, but now when you look at it, you're thinking, yeah, they've smashed it out the park here. I think the only position that maybe they could have switched it up in a bit is goalkeeper, because there's definitely still question marks over Jordan Pickford. But I mean, other than that, yeah, you out of all the teams in the Premier League, you'd have to say Everton, first place Premier League transfer market, basically won.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Chelsea almost rivaled them. I think they had a good window, and we sit here and say number one because those players have started so well. But if Chelsea's players start playing well, we obviously haven't seen anything of Ziyech yet, but
Yeah,
they could
I
also
mean,
potentially.
I'm also taking into account like cost and all that, like
Yeah.
the amount of money they've spent compared to Chelsea. You know,
I think they've still spent quite a bit of money there.
oh no, I recognize that, but you know, Chelsea were spending what $95 million on Havertz or whatever it was, so
it's all.
and Zeke was around £50. So yeah, but hey, you know, you're right. If Chelsea, and there's the big if Chelsea do get, you know, things rolling with all their players included, then I mean,
That's the thing. Everton have got to keep this up. We're 4 games in. We can't get too excited. They've played West Brom, who you'd expect them to comfortably. But I think they even conceded a couple of goals there.
Tottenham.
They did scrape a win against Tottenham, didn't they? A close game. And other than that, I don't think they played anyone to. They played Palace and they played Brighton, didn't they? So they actually haven't played the hardest of games, really. So I still think the judge is out on them.
Well,
Yeah,
Liverpool for them, so we'll see. That's going to be
that's going to be a massive game, and
coming up.
The way they're playing, I can see them winning that match.
Yeah. No, they could, and that'll be the first Merseyside derby win for them in however long it's been, over 10 years, which would be very interesting.
But at the same time, if Everton go out in the Merseyside derby and get beat 4-1 or something, then they're going to be bereft of all that confidence they had, and it's almost be a bit of a reality check for them.
But yeah, we still can't deny that, you know, had a great window. James Rodriguez free is a good deal for any club in the world. They just brought in Alan from Napoli, who's a Champions League quality player coming into Everton. Doucouré shores them up a bit defensively as well. So, you know, great signings, and it's all relative to the squad as well. We have to remember. So if you're comparing Chelsea and Everton, they both, you know, for what Everton had at the start of the window and to what they are now, it's just absolutely, you know, miles in front of what they had previously. So that's important for them. And for looking relative to the squad as well, Aston Villa have had a great window too. Bringing in Ross Barkley on loan, and who else have they brought in? Ollie Watkins as well from the Championship. Johnny Cash, or is it Matty Cash? Sorry,
Martinez.
Martinez from Arsenal. You know, so that's an upgrade on, you know, an aging Pepe Reina. So they've had some you know, great signings there too. Ross Barkley and Jack Grealish in midfield. That's a great partnership. You know, they're sort of, you know, dribbling. More renowned for their dribbling in midfield, which is, you know, important against teams that, you know, set up more in a pressing way in the Premier League. We know how physical the Premier League can be in that sense. So they have the ability to, you know, unlock certain midfields that they're playing against, which we saw against Liverpool. They did that to ease. So, great window for them too. And people are even talking about a top half finish for Aston Villa. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
it's just so hard to comment 4 games in because it's been crazy. You know, We've seen teams from what West Ham have come out and lost to Newcastle 2-0 and didn't even look like troubling them the whole game. They just got dominated. But in the past 2 weeks, we've beat Wolves and Leicester combined 7-0. Like, the season's just been crazy. You know, Aston Villa have beat Liverpool 7-2. Like you couldn't have dreamt of that of happening last season. Like, I think, I think because there was such a short break,
Yeah.
and a lot of teams were playing in Europe, that there's a little bit of craziness going on, and whether that stays or not, I don't know. But I think if it does stay, there's some huge shocks in how the
As
table ends up.
as much as people probably don't want to hear it or admit it, I think a lot of teams, or pretty much every team in the Premier League right now, considering how short of a break they had, probably said, we'll allow a bit of complacency. We'll allow a bad start to the season because it's basically their preseason at this point. You
Mm.
know, this is around the time that they should be doing their preseason and getting fitness back up to where it should be. And I know that, fitness levels should still be good because the end of the season was not too long ago, but at the same time, they just played a full season. So
I think
it's
it's a bit of a mental thing as well, mental fatigue.
yeah.
You know,
And
we a lot of teams we predicted to be in mid-table. You know, Sheffield United already a shout to go down. Burnley already a shout to go down. Haven't got a single point. You know, these sorts of teams already in trouble when we
yeah,
were predicting them to be in and around 10th, 9th, 11th.
Yeah.
I think when we look back on this season, in a few years, this will definitely not be a write-off season, but it'll be like, oh, this is when the Premier League, this is one under unnormal circumstances. Like last season's it was pretty much still normal circumstances because Liverpool had run away with it by February or whatever. So it doesn't really matter what happens there. But I think this season, it's gonna be, this is the COVID season, basically. I think that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what,
Well,
yeah. Well,
hope,
if I was redoing my predictions 4 games in, I couldn't confidently say that Manchester United would be in my top six.
oh no, they're not. They're not gonna
Yet
be.
I had them at third, I think.
No, yes, and so did I, to be honest. But I think right now, if we had to do one of those hot takes or whatever, my top four would, yeah, still Liverpool in there, yeah, still City, but Everton and Arsenal.
Yeah,
hmm
I think it would be a very tough decision. I'd probably
I
put
think
Tottenham
Arsenal.
in over Everton. I'd put Tottenham and Arsenal in with City and Liverpool, just because I don't know how long Liverpool can keep this up.
Well,
Everton can keep this up. Apologies.
m-
But it's
my
crazy. Like even Liverpool, like you lose and look at them lose 7-2 to Villa. Like
my
it's
my
crazy.
only thing is, if you had to take a look at the managers in the Premier League right now, and I don't, before you guys go, oh, like, I don't feel like this is too much of a stretch here. Ancelotti, on his day, is up there for best manager in the league if you look at their whole career. There's definitely an argument for it. So we're looking at a manager of a team that's doing very well, who, a manager who's won multiple Champions Leagues as a manager, multiple leagues all over Europe.
three
This is,
Champions Leagues, which is the joint top with Bob Paisley from Liverpool.
I mean, if anyone's gonna coach Everton to the fucking the Premier League, it's gonna be Carlo Ancelotti, right? So I'm not saying they're gonna win the league. I'm just saying like that is definitely the best manager for their situation.
Yeah, and I think he's come in and already proven his credentials with how he's got the team playing and the signings he's made.
Yeah,
He's shown he's a top class manager.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
No, exactly. And with all the craziness going on in the Premier League at the moment, lots of teams being questioned for their defending, with so many goals being shipped in, also so many penalties being given away. I guess we can maybe come on to the handball rule a bit later. But yeah, do you think that the crowds in the Premier League, being there, no crowds, is that going to have an effect throughout the season? We've seen if that's, maybe it's a less of a pressure for players on the fields and that maybe it's a bit more relaxed, a bit more open for teams to play a bit more freely. Do you think that's why we're seeing so many goals being shipped in this?
Yeah, yeah, I do, and I think that what's sort of solidified my opinion of this is watching some of the American sports recently. Um, I don't know if you guys watch basketball or anything, but you basically the Miami Heat weren't real. No one really had them making the NBA finals because it's quite a young team. And now here they are. They're 2 games down. Like it's 2-1 right now. But not having that crowd and not having to play and against in atmospheres like in football like Anfield, Old Trafford, when and
Like,
Elland Road, places like that. That's for younger players and for players who aren't as experienced. That's going to be a real boost for them because there's no instant stick from the fans and there's no pressure from opposition fans that make you like shit your pants. So I think that's definitely going to help the smaller teams like it probably helped Villa. Against Liverpool, not having the fans there, and it'll definitely help some other teams. That's 100%.
yeah, I mean, we've seen even like teams like Tottenham. Well, I guess they already played defensively anyway. Maybe a better example is Chelsea. The way they set up against Liverpool at Stamford Bridge, which is a home game, they were very defensive, and I just question whether if they did that in front of their home supporters, they would have definitely got on their back.
Yeah.
And wanted their players to go and press a bit more and play a bit more attacking wise. And teams can't do that with fans in the stadium. So it's even Arteta at Arsenal. He's played a bit more defensively in certain games as well. And you just can't do that if you're playing a home game at the Emirates and you got 60,000 fans on your back. There's no way that players are going to stick with playing that defensively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just quickly, what I will say in
Yeah.
what's been a crazy first 4 game weeks, there are 2 safe bets I think I could say, and that is Fulham and West Brom will both go down.
Yeah, fair enough.
I haven't seen anything from either of them. I know West Brom freakishly put 3 goals on Chelsea in the first half last week, but other than that, both teams been playing some ordinary football. Defensively, just West Brom defensively, it looks shocking.
We all predicted them to go down, didn't we? Or Elliot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight back down. Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, should we move on to the best performers in the league thus far? I think for me, it's been James Rodríguez for Everton. It's elevated to another level.
I didn't realize you meant individual performers. I thought you meant teams, but yeah.
Individual, yeah. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, Calvert-Lewin also been playing good football. Scoring at ease, really. Kane and Son. They've started pretty well. I guess they had that one really good game, whereas Calvert-Lewin's done it consistently across the 4 games. Lamptey at right back, he's been a bit of a revelation for Brighton, hasn't he? There's been quite a few good performers. If I look at West Ham, I think Bowen's got 3 goals and a few assists. He's been playing really well, as has Antonio leading the line. They've both been playing really good. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other.
The whole Villa team probably deserves credit.
Yeah, Grealish. I think they've played 1 game less, which probably means we haven't seen as much. I think Salah's started well, hasn't he, Jez?
Yeah, he's got, I think it's 5 goals so far. 5 or 6. He got a hat trick on opening day and then 2 against Villa, which sort of gets overlooked. These are the 7 goals that we let in, but he's been performing well, better than last season so far. At least the way he's been linking with Mane and Firmino as well, he's become, I guess, a bit more of a team player, if that makes sense. He's looking for that pass instead of always selfishly going for the shot as well. So he's been performing well. I just mentioned James Rodríguez. He just looks class on the field still. I think it takes Everton to that next level. He's so good at finding the pass in the final third and picking up those pockets in midfield. There's half spaces between the defence and the midfield of the opposition. So he's been performing incredibly well. Yeah, Harry Kane and Son. Great mentions too that Elliot just said. Kane maybe taking a bit more of a role with assisting this season. We've seen him pick up a lot of assists. It was 4 against Southampton in their win just a couple of weeks ago. There are also shouts of Calvert-Lewin being called up for England or playing over Harry Kane. I don't know if he's quite at that level just yet, but maybe we can see them partnering each other for England as well in a different sort of setup. Yeah,
that'd be interesting to see. I think they definitely have the potential to play a two up front, sort of with those two, that would be pretty formidable. We obviously know Harry Kane's reputation, but the way Calvert-Lewin's been playing lately, I think he could do a very good job for England.
Yeah, I think there's only been one United player who's impressed me this season, and he hasn't even played in the league. So that's Henderson. He played in the League Cup, and he's got 2 clean sheets, and he's made some great saves. So it's a bit annoying that he doesn't start in the Premier League anymore. But if I were Ollie, honestly, I'd be thinking maybe start him in the Champions League if you're gonna keep going with De Gea in the league. It can't hurt, right? We just conceded 6 to Tottenham.
Yeah, definitely. Whether he does that though, because probably comes with a bit of backlash that decision, depending on where you come from. But I don't think De Gea would be too happy sitting on the bench with what he's earning.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, man, I think it's time for a change. I think De Gea.
I agree. I'd be playing Henderson.
Yeah, I mean,
at least to give De Gea the kick up the bum for a week.
Yeah, I think De Gea should probably. I think it's best for both parties if De Gea leaves next summer. Obviously, his wages are gonna take a hit, but for his ambitions of wanting to win stuff, he might be better off going somewhere else. And for us, Henderson, something new, something young, and something not as expensive.
Yeah, fair enough. Just going back to, I guess, teams who had good transfer windows. There's a shout for Tottenham, maybe, signing Gareth Bale on loan, not really, just, something to talk about for Tottenham's supporters' sake. But when he gets firing and gets back into the team, if he can stay fit for a while, that'll be important for them. They've just signed Vinicius, the backup striker that Mourinho wanted to give them a bit more depth. Doherty and what was the other full? Yeah, that was the Reguilon as well. So he's strengthened the positions that
Højbjerg as well.
Højbjerg, so that'll help their squad and maybe give them a bit more strength pushing for top 4. Liverpool as well, been overlooked I think for best transfer window. Sounding a bit biased here, but we've gone out and improved where we've needed to as well, apart from that centre half position, although Fabinho can drop back there too, which we saw against Chelsea a couple of weeks ago to good effect. But we've signed Diogo Jota, who can fit in across that front 3.
Should have signed Kane.
That would have been, I think anyone would
get rid of Bobby.
I guess if I was Liverpool, the only thing I'd be worried about is Villa exposed something that we hadn't seen in the Premier League yet, and is if you play your cards right down that right-hand side, you can do some damage. And no offense to Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I think on the weekend, his
defensive
not being the greatest defender for a right back really showed. He wasn't helped by it.
Exposed, and he's so good going forward that he probably hasn't. And Liverpool are so good in general that he probably hasn't been exposed to a lot of. He has been exposed to hard challenges, but you know what I mean.
There, but I was just going to comment on Liverpool's back line. We've played a lot higher up so far this season, and I don't know whether it's definitely something the coaching staff have told them to stick with, because if you ship 4 goals in against Aston Villa, but you're still holding that hard defensive line. I was listening to something Micah Richards was saying on the BBC a couple of days ago, and he said that under Mancini, he would tell their players to stay in that high line and don't drop off. And I'll take the blame as a manager after the game if we concede so many goals. But I think they were chasing goal difference in the league or something, and the other team went down to 10 men maybe. But he told Micah Richards, who plays it right back for the viewers who don't know, to not go past the halfway line when the team's defending. So, it's just something crazy that I don't know what the plan is in terms of defending with that high line so high.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see.
I'll just finish on that point. We've sort of lost our press a bit. Like last season, we've become a bit more of a ball retention team because, teams sit back against us a bit more. But I guess we've been a bit more exposed to the counter-attack in that sense as well. So I think it's Klopp maybe trying to compress our team a bit and not allowing teams to play out against us and press them a bit more. So maybe get that pressing game back a bit. But I'm not so sure it's going to plan so far. Elliot, you were going to add to that?
Yeah, was just going to say, I think it'll be interesting to see whether that's stuck with after the international break, whether we'll see Liverpool come out and play that high line again, because obviously conceding 7 to Aston Villa is a huge worry. And it's not just Aston Villa because there was 3 shipped to Leeds on opening day. So in 4 games, I can't remember how many you've conceded in those other 2 games. Who did you play?
We conceded 1 to Arsenal, although that was and
3 to Leeds,
three
right?
to,
Yeah,
and
3
we
to Leeds.
clean sheet against Chelsea. So
Okay, so 11 goals in 4 games is a worry for a team that's trying to compete for the title, in my opinion. So I think it'll just be an interesting to see if Klopp sticks with that after the international break, and if he does stick with it, how it's going to go, because they've had a few games to get used to it now. If there is a bit of a change and they're coming up a bit higher, but yeah.
if we are changing it for the next game, it's going to be difficult because we know international break. You only get the players coming back with 2 days roughly.
Yeah, but you said that they've come up a bit higher this season. I mean, they would still be so used to playing the line they played last year. So if they were just to drop back a little bit.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, playing against Everton, especially, you don't want to the form that they're in. I think you have to probably revert back to what we were doing before.
I think
Yeah,
one thing hasn't. Oh, sorry,
no,
Elliot.
you're good. You go.
I was. This is more in tongue in cheek, but I think one thing that hasn't been mentioned is something that Villa exposed, especially against Liverpool, is that Robertson and Alexander-Arnold are just crossing merchants, right? 31 crosses last game. I'm messing around, but
They are
it's
very good going forward, and they aren't perfect going back. Like I think they're definitely, or particularly Trent is a lot stronger going forward than he is sitting in the back four defending. But I was watching Sky Sports' post game. I can't remember who said it, but they were having a bit of dig at Virgil, and the fact that they kept the high line. I think the person said the game was gone at 5-2, and he would have liked to see Virgil just say, "Hey, we'll just sit back a little bit and not make this any worse, rather than keep the high line and concede another however many chances they did, because it shouldn't have just been 7. There was a couple. I think Ollie Watkins had a really good chance and he hit the crossbar, didn't he? So they could have conceded 8 or 9 maybe, but he would have liked to see Virgil just say to the other players, "Look, we'll just sit back a bit here and not make this any worse." But obviously it did get worse. So I'm assuming he was under instruction from Klopp to keep that throughout the whole game. But yeah, it certainly isn't a good look.
Well, one thing I would say is I think maybe, in all seriousness now, maybe what has happened is, obviously there was no Mane, right?
No.
For some I
COVID.
forgot. Did Firmino start or no?
Yeah.
Okay,
It was
so I mean, I think,
Jota was in place for Mane.
yeah, I think maybe something that you guys have to look at in games specifically like these is, I think we talked about it last season as well, is Liverpool don't tend to play through their midfield a lot. They tend to use those fullbacks and get up the pitch as fast as possible. And I think in a game like this, it's kind of hurt them when they didn't exactly have all the quality that they're used to having in the front three. And so basically what I'm saying is not playing through the midfield in this game definitely, I think, hurt them, because I think if they had tried to do that a bit more, I think they would have had the quality to break down Villa's midfield.
Well, we did
play a bit more centrally.
Right. Yeah, sorry. We tried to play through our midfield a bit, but we just couldn't keep the bloody ball. We lost it so often. Our ball retention was horrible. I mean, obviously, we do use the fullbacks to attack. That's like our main asset, attacking wise. Missing Thiago as well in that sense through COVID doesn't help either. But
I do think though that missing Thiago shouldn't be the biggest worry, because that is still the midfield that won you guys the Premier League at the end of the day, So I don't think not having Thiago was a killer, especially against a team like Villa. But I mean,
It shouldn't be.
I think it is honestly just a case of just a really bad day at the office, and it's something that you coach out of the players.
Yeah.
But you're right. Getting Thiago back in will definitely.
Hopefully it's just a blip.
Yeah, but I think if you're looking at the 4 games overall, the defense is a little bit of a worry.
Yeah.
Even though that was a super bad day at the office, the 3 to Leeds on opening day, and now this would suggest that maybe there's a little bit of defensive fragilities that can be exposed by other teams, but I still think they're in pole position to be up there right again.
And
Yeah.
no Allison hurt as well.
Yes.
I-
And
yeah,
that's going to hurt big time.
6
The
weeks.
next 4 to 6 weeks. It'll be interesting to see if both Thiago should be back for the Merseyside derby, correct?
Yeah, although
And then
so he wouldn't be.
yeah, but it would have been 2 weeks, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and then Mane, I think he might just be back, depending. I guess it just depends on if they're symptomatic or whether they.
Shaqiri's tested positive as well, so I'm hoping.
Because you need to have 2 negative tests right before you can come back, because that was the case with Moyes and West Ham's players. So
okay,
I think if
Jeremy was getting out there, they won't be able to go back to training right before the game, and that'll hurt as well.
Yeah, I think if Liverpool start with the same team that played against Villa with Mane, Thiago, and Alisson out, then they're in real trouble.
Henderson
and I think
well, so.
Yeah, okay. I think Alisson's going to be a big miss considering the way Adrian played, and I think in this next we've got a 2-week break now, but those next 3 to 4 games, I know that West Ham play Liverpool in those next 3 to 4 games, and I'm hoping that with Alisson out, Liverpool are right for the taking.
I think we'll see a lot more long balls from Adrian to come. I mean, after he made that mistake in the first half, not passing it to Gomez, I should say, we saw him go long pretty much every time after that. So, I mean, obviously, it's not the greatest situation in terms of goalkeepers right now for Liverpool. People are even questioning whether Kelleher could even get a chance if Adrian continues to make mistakes.
Bring back Karius.
Isn't
he still at the club?
Yeah, I think that could somehow be worse than Adrian, but
I don't know if it can be. I think Karius, obviously the Champions League final, but he was still a solid keeper. Like, you know what I mean? He had that horrendous day, but that was years ago now. Like, a keeper can go through stages of confidence and stuff like that, and that affects their performance hugely. I mean,
yeah, well,
he can't do worse than Adrian. I would think he would at least be on the same level.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a risk. I don't know if that's a risk Klopp would be willing to take just yet, but
Adrian in itself is a risk because we've seen countless times he's made mistakes.
Yeah, it's gone on a bit too long now. He's made several mistakes. I'm trying to think back to even one of his first games for us last season against Southampton. He made a mistake. Obviously wins us the Super Cup, but yeah, we've seen a lot of mistakes from him. So I was just thinking that with our defensive line, maybe it's what we sort of needed in a way. It sounds a bit weird. I'm trying to take the positives from it, from the Villa game, but it's something to really, kick up the arse for us. And people were questioning at the start of the season, or like within the first few games of the season when we conceded 3 leads, everyone was just saying, they just need a bit of time to gel, a bit of time to, get back into the field, back into the groove of the season. But now I think we properly know there is definitely a real underlying problem with the defence. So I think that hopefully that will be addressed properly now. And then that's something that Klopp will work on with the defence, with the players to say, hey, we need to actually step up our game here. And maybe we'll see a bit more of a defensive performance against Everton. It is an away game. Maybe we'll just say, okay, firstly, let's make sure we start strongly. First 15 minutes, don't give anything away. And then we can let our attack speak for ourselves. And we know how good Liverpool can be on the counter-attack if we're playing defensively with the pace we have up front. Mane may be out, yes, but Salah's still fast. Jota's very quick as well. And yeah, it's just, we can let our attack speak for ourselves in certain games. And I think that's something we'll need to do in maybe over the next couple of games just to, get that defensive feel back once again.
Yeah, I think going back to before and how we were talking about there could be a bit of physical and mental fatigue. I think the next couple of months for the so-called Big Six and how this season is going to shape, it's going to be so crucial because, the games are going to be coming thick and fast now. We've had 2 Carabao Cup games already, so teams have been playing midweek already. And now we come back from the international break and European fixtures start. Other than Spurs who have already had them, it's going to be interesting to see if these crazy results continue to happen.
One thing I will say though, Jeremy, is if United and Liverpool played like next week, I'd expect about a 7-7.
That would be a classic one for the ages. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
I'm just hoping Liverpool sticking Adrian for goal against West Ham. Obviously, he's a West Ham boy at heart, so he just makes a few mistakes for us.
Oh yeah.
So it was his plan all along to join.
That was Pellegrini's plan when he got rid of him.
I mean, I as much as I'm taking the piss out of Adrian, you saw Harry Maguire's tackle on Shaw right before the second goal. Did
I haven't. No, I didn't. I didn't see that.
Shocking play in general for the Man United defense.
it was so
No.
like no, they're in like the 6 yard box, like, and Shaw's about to basically clear the ball, and Harry Kane just drags him down to the ground as if he's a Spurs player, and then the other Spurs.
Harry Maguire is trying to scramble to get back in front of whoever I think it's either Lamella or I think it's Lamella, isn't it? Yeah, it's Lamella.
Yeah,
Harry Maguire is scrambling to get back to Lamella and try and block the shot, but in doing so, he's grabbing onto Luke Shaw and using him as sort of a pulling a mechanism to pull him in front of the ball, which he does get to and does deflect it in, but still, he brought Shaw down, who was actually in front of him and between Lamella and Maguire.
Basically, if he doesn't pull Shaw down there, Shaw's probably going to clear the ball, or at least make a block that doesn't result in a deflected goal.
Because he is in between the ball and Maguire and Lamella, so he's the man you want to put in front of it, I guess. But
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not happy with how Bailly just put that ball into that area regardless, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Maguire has a lot to prove this season as well. Obviously, the whole, being arrested thing in Greece, but we're yet to see him live up to his price tag, so he's a big season ahead.
It's not even like last season meant that he had a lot to live up to, because last season he was all right.
Yeah, he was pretty decent last year, and this year,
especially the back end, he was decent.
It's worrying. It's worrying the way he's been playing.
What about Eric Bailly? Because he'd look to be, when he does play and when he's fit, he looks decent. But is he?
Yeah, well, the thing was, Patrice Evra came out and said it was like Bailly used to like complain when he wasn't playing, and then he'd go and play like that, and he got a 2 out of 10 rating for his performance. So, it's hopefully that's put him in his place a bit, but we need another center back. That's what I'm getting at is.
Yeah,
it's just not good. It's not good.
Yeah. Well, I guess that sort of brings us to one of our last topics: is does defending even exist anymore? Basically, yeah, lots of goals being shipped, and we sort of covered it a bit already. But another thing I heard was on the BBC, or I think it was Neil Warnock, who's your typical old-fashioned coach who loves a bit of defending and a bit of the hard style of game, the old English game, I guess you could say. But,
if in doubt, boot it out, sort of guy.
Yeah.
Well, this season has been so crazy that West Ham currently have conceded the second least goals in the league. That's saying something with West Ham's defensive record over probably the past 20 years and how embarrassing it's been. Every year we're down the bottom. This year we started at the top.
Liverpool's goal difference is 0 right now after 4 games.
Yeah.
So,
Liverpool have almost conceded what they have in a whole season in 4 games.
Yeah.
They've probably conceded half what they normally concede in a season.
Yeah, just a bit. Yeah, actually, that's probably, yeah. But I think City had negative goal difference for the first time in
probably, yeah.
Are we. So it's
crazy. And for West Ham's sake, I have to give Moyes some credit because he's put us in a back 5 formation and brought Masuaku into the team and given us wing backs, and we've kept 2 clean sheets in the 2 games we've played it and scored 7 goals. So it seems to be working. It's either that or Moyes is on the ground.
Don't speak too soon, because Moyes, I think the first 4 games under Moyes for us were great, and then
speaking about Moyes, speaking about West Ham, because so many times you have a good result West Ham, and then you go out the next week and you get pumped by a team you should be beating.
Maybe Moyes should just stay behind the scenes and keep.
I think maybe we should just kill Moyes or something so he stays home permanently.
Something I found that was funny was someone was saying that Guardiola should hire Allardyce as a defensive coach for City. And I thought to myself, at this point, if we sack Solskjaer, I wouldn't be surprised if Allardyce is our manager.
Oh my goodness. Sir Allardyce himself.
Yeah.
Well, if I was answering the question, does defending exist, and looking at Liverpool conceding 7 goals, no. My answer would be no, not anymore. Well, not for the first 4 games of the Premier League anyway.
Neil Warnock was saying that even like with the academy levels and stuff, people coming through the ranks now, that he feels that they're sort of being taught that centre backs these days, they need to be able to pass out the back, all that stuff, be able to play, and that's sort of first and foremost, rather than properly defending, getting your head to the ball.
Then the traditional no nonsense, get rid of the ball.
Yeah.
More like a defensive midfielder now than an actual centre half.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've seen, the likes of, Fabinho dropping back there for Liverpool. We saw Fernandinho play there, feature a lot for Man City at the back last season. Speaking about Man City, Diaz from Benfica has signed. Decent signing, still has to prove himself, 23 years old. Probably will help them at the back a bit there, but he's not quite, Vincent Kompany level yet. I just wanted to get your take on that signing.
I kind of wish we signed him, if I'm being honest. Like, before I've seen him actually play football, if before the season started we had signed Ruben Diaz to put next to Harry Maguire, I would have been like, yep, good. But like you said, it remains to be seen whether he'll actually be a good.
So is Laporte actually 100% fit? Because he was on the bench against Leeds, and
I think he played the other day, didn't he?
He was on the bench against Leeds, and it was Ake and maybe it was Diaz. Did Diaz start? I'm pretty sure Diaz started. Or was that against Burnley?
Ake and what's his name? That guy from who's the guy that Barcelona wanted to sign from them? Garcia started against Leeds. Oh no, against that was against Leicester. Sorry.
No, yeah, I think you're right. I think it was Ake and Ruben Diaz at the back, but I think Laporte is close.
Because he was on the bench. I'm just thinking if Laporte is 100% fit, he needs to be in that team.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
No asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just lastly, international fixtures. To be honest, I hate the international break. It always falls.
Especially when the good old Socceroos don't ever play.
I know. It falls on my birthday every single year, and even in a global pandemic, it's decided to fall on my birthday as well, which is just great. With the whole rescheduled season, it had to fall on my birthday once.
It wouldn't be horrible if the Socceroos had a couple of World Cup qualifiers, but I mean, we're still waiting for those to happen. So
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna be very useful in this segment. I don't even know what's happening. I don't know who's.
It's Nations League. It's just Nations League rubbish. Who even cares about the Nations League? No one.
I heard something.
You've got the Euros. You don't need a Nations League.
There was CONCACAF or ONMEBOL, the Copa America qualifying. I think it was. Oh no, it was World Cup qualifying. But the ONMEBOL group was so Argentina were playing, but there was complaints about someone from China couldn't fly over because of restrictions, but then like Messi and Suarez and whatnot was allowed to take their private jets over from Spain. So, I mean, there's a bit of discrepancy in terms of players being able to play.
What I don't understand is why all these countries can play and all these European fixtures can go ahead when they have so many COVID cases, but the Socceroos can't bring over one China team and quarantine them and play them or something like that. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
When we have virtually 0 cases.
Well, the other thing that's interesting in the UK is the government announced that you can do performances at 50% capacity in Royal Albert Hall, which is an indoor amphitheater. And it's going to be about 3,500 people that they're going to allow in at one time, and yet they won't allow outdoor stadiums. Which really
I'm actually the way that the coronavirus has spiked up again in England. I'm worried for the season. I'm worried that they could go back into lockdown.
People are worrying about that. They maybe even
it's higher than it's ever been before. It got up to over 7,000 cases a day, which it never was when they were in lockdown.
Well, Boris Johnson just said, "Don't worry, it should be over by October next year."
Thanks, Boris.
Yeah, well, people are saying that this season could be, even potentially pushed back, even more and postponed, maybe. So then, even the following season could be.
I thought they said they're going to the season's going to end if it stops again. Wasn't that the decision the Premier League came to? That if the season does stop again this season, that they're ending it there, and that's the final positions. I guess I don't know if that's going to be the final positions or they just void it. I guess it depends how far into the season.
That to me makes sense though, because then you'd basically have to back the league again, which would just be ridiculous.
And then that would again push the Euros back another year.
Yeah.
And that then with that it just causes problems for things like World Cups down the line and stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so maybe that's something like the international games and players going overseas. Maybe that's something they need to look to cut if we want to, the proper league season to finish, which I'm
But I
sure.
mean, even if let's say 10 games in, the season gets locked down and shuts and it finishes, like you can't relegate a team off that. I mean, if Fulham and West Brom had lost 10 games each, yeah, send them down. But
Well,
if a team's, it's so harsh.
Yeah, I mean, because imagine City and United were in the bottom two. Just say they lose their next games or something like that. They're in the bottom two after only 5 games played. Do you then relegate them? That would be a bit.
That would
mad.
It would be hilarious, is what it would be.
It would be very unjust, but
Oh, the Premier League would have some serious problems in terms of like money. That's for sure.
imagine a 5-game league season.
At this point, Villa will probably win the league.
Yeah, my goodness.
Everton and Villa, Champions League football.
Oh, yeah.
So much to consider, and I mean, if they were to like lock it down, couldn't they just do like a 2-week quarantine for every single team and then just go back straight away? Maybe they'll try and find a quick solution like that.
No, because they can't. That's
Staff.
besides the point, Jeremy. Because even if they have the 2-week lockdowns, it doesn't matter. They might be code free, but the government would have put the laws in saying you can't go outside because they don't want any spread.
Yeah.
And then you got professional footballers earning £350,000 a week just going around kicking a ball, and everyone's like, "What the hell?" You know.
Money talks. So.
And it's not the Premier League players having it that's the problem anyway, so they wouldn't have to quarantine.
Yeah.
They're in the country.
It's just no one's above the law, basically, is what we're getting at.
I just want the football.
Yeah, and it's not, and exactly what Daniel said. Like, it's not just the players. There's so many people that are involved in the running of the Premier League.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah.
And the referees, and it's everything, security, all that.
Yeah.
And the fact is, if one sport continues, then you can't say no to all sports.
No, exactly. So yeah, Shaqiri just testing positive. I'm hoping it's not. He didn't. I think he went to Switzerland and then,
Yeah, I think so.
At Switzerland.
I mean, West Ham had 2 players in Moyes, and they didn't. I don't think they're going to shut it down unless the government says you have to. So.
I just hope it doesn't get worse from this point because Liverpool had 3 players, and then who knows if that's going to spread even more. So we'll just hopefully.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, could you imagine it spread through Liverpool so much so that they couldn't field 18 players or 11 players, whatever, and then the league turned around and said,
Even imagine if just Mane gave it to Van Dijk and Salah or something.
Oh,
shambles.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they were. Yeah, imagine if they had caught it when they were doing like games every 3 days, and they had to quarantine for 2 weeks. That would have been catastrophic.
Yeah, did they just postpone the fixtures, or what would they even do?
Well, yeah, I was saying if they can't field 11 players, it'd be funny if they made you forfeit.
Yeah, because that's what they did to Leyton Orient in the cup.
Yeah.
That would be just, I don't know, play the under-19s again like we did against Villa last season in the League Cup. But that would be, I don't know.
And somehow you still put up a better performance than the other day.
Probably.
You? Because I thought you have to have your squad announced.
I'm sure they would allow that if it was that situation, though. They'd bend the rules for that. And under 21s can be called up at any stage anyway.
Okay.
They don't have to be in a squad. And I know that from Football Manager.
Football Manager, one of our sponsors on the show. Not really, but I think we'll wrap it up there unless you guys have anything else to add. No, perfect. Yeah, just hitting around the hour mark. If you made it this far, thanks for listening in. Please give us a like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll be posting a bit more now that university is sort of dying down a bit for Elliot and I don't know. I think Daniel's just getting started, so.
I've got midterms soon, so that'll be interesting. But what I will say is, if there's anything that you guys found interesting during our conversation, leave a comment as well. Tell us your opinion if you feel like it. We'd love to have some different opinions as well. Maybe we can talk about it next time. But spread it around.
Sounds good. And yeah, check us out, Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. So we're on those platforms too. And I'll link that in the description below if everyone's interested. But yeah, thanks for joining us again, and see you guys in future videos.
Yeah, cheers, boys.